Okie dokie. So, welcome everyone to another episode of the KQL Cafe. Johnny was on holiday. I was too busy, so no slides today. But we have an excellent guest. Some of you might know him. We have Jan with us. He does a lot of KQL. I think it's fair to say, not per se in security, but in other areas like Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And I think it's a good opportunity for those that are, hanging out with us and maybe think, okay, they always talk about security, to maybe also show, other aspects and areas where KQL can be used in your daily life. Yeah. So, what's new? Usually we have that agenda thing, and here I wanted to highlight something I actually came across a couple of days ago. Whenever I'm doing my assessments with customers and we talk about the Microsoft Defender Health report, and believe it or not, there are still companies that are missing out on updating Windows. So we usually, go to the Microsoft Defender Health report and we show, the number of operating systems and Windows build versions that they are still running. Highlighting, end of life editions. Again, very often customers, told me, well, that number is not totally true because that Windows 10 edition that we are running, that 1809, that is a long-term servicing branch, and there's a long support for it. And unfortunately, right now, the built-in report, the nice one with all the colors, doesn't actually show that difference. But while I was going through the logs, as usual, actually working on something totally different, but that's the nice thing. I actually found something. And for those of you who may know or not know, there's a new table in Microsoft 365 Defender called, let me enlarge it a little bit. There's a new table, DeviceTvmInfoGathering. Yeah. And if we take that table, and just take 10, a little bit of a repetition of standard KQL commands. Oops. Doesn't like the uppercase. We see, and of course in my environment, it's not too much happening, but we see that we have a bunch of interesting additional fields regarding the antivirus engine version, platform version. If you want to expand that, we basically go by, extend AE and parts JSON, and we do this one. Nice tip that Johnny gave me. And then we do evaluate, back, unpack, AF. And we're now expanding those fields. And now, we can actually work with them. And while doing so, I came across this nice attribute called, is Windows LTSC version running? Yeah. And if it is so, it gives you back a true. So although in my environment, I don't have LTSC, but I can tell you that I validated in a customer environment. If we run this script, this query, first I'm going to collect all the devices. And then I compare it here. And what we get basically is an overview of the device info, but enriched with the attribute whether LTSC is running. And what you can do with that in practice is that basically, depending on your Windows LTSC edition that you're running, that you can now easily distinguish between the LTSC 1607, 1809, or 1908, I believe it is, and whether you actually have the LTSC running on that platform, or whether it's the standard SAC release of Windows. Yeah. So I'll share this in the show notes. Give it a try, and in case you weren't familiar yet with this table, take a look. There's other interesting information like Log4j vulnerability, TLS 1.1 information, etc. And most important, of course, you will also get that AV engine, AV platform information, not only for Windows, but also for other operating systems. Yeah. So yeah, that's my what's new, or call it what discovered since we spoke last. Back to you, Johnny.
Cool. So what I wanted to show today is sometimes you have different tables where you have different types of values which you want to match together. And let me share my screen first. This one. So, for instance, in my tenant, I have the sign-in logs, which have the user principal name. And you have the office activity, which has the user ID. But sometimes you want to have them both in a way that you can easily see, okay, we have all this data from this user. So what we can do is we can use a union, and then you have different columns. So over here, if we sort it here, we have the office activity in the top row, which has the user ID over here. And then we have the sign-in activity in the below, and the sign-in activity has a user principal name or alternate sign-in name or ID. So what we can do is we can use a project rename to maybe rename the column so that we have both renamed the user principal name and the user. So you have everything nice in one column. But if you do a rename, then you will remove the original column. You can also do an extend, but then you're creating an extra column, which it adds a bit of load to your query. And in my tenant, it doesn't hurt that much. But if you have like 140K users, it can be a bit slower. So you can also do is use the Coalesce function or operator. And with the operator, you can say, hey, I want to have these values in my user column. And what it does, it will take the first value. So if you have maybe file hashes, if you have an MD5, a SHA-1, SHA-265, you can add all the values in here and it will grab the first value. And also if you have an IPv4 and an IPv6, you can also use this function to just grab the first value it sees. So this way you don't have to join or do an extend or a rename of columns. You just say, hey, give me the first value. And this is, well, a really easy way to go to a large set of data. Because we can also, for instance, do union, sign-in logs, AAD star, and office activity. And then we'll extend it. And objects reorder user. And also user equals. So now I'm getting all the values of all the columns. And as soon as it hits one of these two columns, then it will return the value. That's a nice way to do things, because also if you're working with maybe office activity and alerts, then you want to make sure you have the right columns available. That's my learning KQL for this month. See if there's any questions. No? I think it's. Do you want to add something, Alex?
No, that's good. It's actually a nice trick. I already have an idea where I'm gonna apply that one. Yeah. Good. So yeah, I'll definitely have something for what I've done this month. But I suggest we give the word to Jan.
Hello. So the last month I have been really having fun with this stuff. You have seen this before, the Kusto Detective Agency. And this is like a really cool and awesome way to start learning. Even though it's hard, you actually need to have some basics. But the bank robbery story was kind of cool. And it really, you really need to think about data in a different way than we typically do when generating workbooks or reports. It's a totally different mindset, but it's really, really cool.
Yeah. I'm jealous to see you tried that you're already on number 4. I'm still banging my head against number 3.
and the question now is, should I show you all the solution to number 4 or not?
No.
Because that was my thinking is to go through how I got to the solution. But if this is too fresh, maybe we should just leave it with that.
I think Merlijn wants a hint on the election fraud challenge.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember if I actually have that query, and it's a tough one. But I do have something. The serious decompose anomalies is kind of the hint here, and it's not that easy to figure that one out. It's a really, really hard one. And it's so hard, I kind of forgot it when I was finished with it. The bank robbery is a bit easier. It's about finding the moving, the cars not moving during robbery, and the cars moving right after the robbery and the police came. And then you have the VIN numbers and you need to match it, and then you need to find where did they where is there a place where all 3 cars stopped at the same time. But it's really, really cool working with this compared to the standard stuff we do, because this is just fun. And also the book stuff was quite. It's like measuring the weight of the books versus the weight of the whole shelf, and find where you have the largest difference. It's a totally different way of working with Kusto, but it's really learningful. And my colleague that had never really done a lot of this before, we gave him some hints. Me and Sandy and Maurice gave him some hints, and then he was like all over it. And he also now finished the last one. So, and there is a new one in 4 days. So if you're gonna get moving, Alex, you need to get through this before Sunday.
I'm going to do a sprint on this somewhere this week because I haven't had the chance to do it already. So I'll probably do it in one rush.
Yeah, and you get these awards, right? And you get badges. And I don't know why somebody is getting like the what do you call it? A limited badge.
It's the first 200.
No, but I actually finished the Detective 3 before Sandy. I did not get a limited badge. She did.
Ah.
But I got I got gifts from Snappy Gifts 2 times.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So
I definitely agree. It's actually a great initiative because I can just speak for those that I'm working closely with. These type of exercises have now also opened, I would say, the interest to KQL to all those that were maybe not interested in security or Intune. Because if I look just in my company, like, now our automation engineer is getting excited about solving those. Our Azure architect, is trying to solve those. So yeah, definitely a super initiative. Whoever developed it, obviously it's the Azure Data Explorer team. I assume. Yeah. No, definitely fun. Yeah.
So if you're gonna move over to some other fun stuff I've been working on lately, it's I have this privileged identity management audit dashboard that I've been working on. And this is a dashboard that goes, if you're using PIM, it gives you a full insight into the different elevation, the reason they gave for elevating into the role at that date. And then here, of course, we can switch it up to 30 days, and then we will see a lot more elevations. And then we will see the reasoning. And as you can see, some of them are just not great, which is typically me. It's just working. But this is the main thing about this is that you can actually see, are people using PIM correctly? And as you can see here in Cloudway, we are not the best to do it correctly, because it shouldn't be 86 global admin and just one global reader and one security admin. It should be different. We are not good enough to use the right role to the right time, because we know during the day we probably need to have GA and then we elevate it. But having this kind of dashboard allows us to see, and our customers who has this also really like it, and gives them a way to measure adoption of PIM, and also be able to see why are people elevating. And it depends on your retention policy, of course. I can do up to 90 days on this one. And then you can see the trends over time. We also have this other one because we are using, we have a method for doing PIM. And I can then verify, has anybody done changes to PIM over this period of time? And this is the user added to roles over the last 90 days, who did it, and who did they add. So this is also one of the really, having those kind of audit dashboards is really cool. And I think, and we also have this privilege added out of compliance, because here we have seen my colleague, he added a user directly to the role instead of using the correct method. And then I can see that easily. And then you can, of course, move that into an alert, and then you can send an alert on it and mitigate on it. Cool. So this is all based on, let me see, I can maybe show some of the queries we have here. It's not very complex, actually. This is kind of the one for the user activation count. It's like 4 lines, super easy. And then you just do a pie chart and some chart setting, and then you have your data visualized in a really good way. So this one is not available in KQLCafe GitHub. This dashboard will probably come out on the MS Endpoint Manager blog soon, together with other workbooks that we are considering sharing. Some of this stuff is still in development. It's like a first version. We need to add more value. We need to want to add more to it. And this one is very specific, because if you don't use the groups and stuff that we do, you won't be able to get the correct response, especially down here, because what we are doing here is we're looking at group names, and because we define all groups that every user that gets into a role should have a group name called AC role, which is a privileged access group. And then we can measure that by using that group name, because only those groups are only used for that purpose. So if you don't use that, you can't use this workbook. So that's why maybe it's not the best community workbook, but for our customer that use our way of doing this, it's really helpful for them.
And I guess you can also add a ton of features to this.
Yes.
Because when I see this, I think, hey, maybe you want to do out of office hours or locations or.
Yeah, I
really...
mean, you can do anything. I mean, as long as you have the Sentinel logs and the audit logs, it's just your imagination. What do you want to build, right? And then we get a request from a customer. Hey, we want to see. We need more insight into PIM. All right, let's make this dashboard. The other scenario is a user doing a customer who is currently working on a Windows Hello rollout. And this workbook is not actually made by me. It's made by Sandy, but I guess it's okay. I can share it, or at least show some of it. We are looking here at Windows Hello for Business, and the thinking is here to look at Windows sign-ins from the log. And I show all our usernames now, but that's you can blur that out before you put it on YouTube. The thing is that we can see here if they are registered or not. And here suddenly I see here that in week 37, this user logged on to Windows with a FIDO key and not Windows Hello for Business. And he actually logged on with his privileged account, which you should never do. And then this gave me the possibility to see that. But just seeing this, how much is Hello for Business being used in the environment? You can measure adoption. You can see, hey, this is actually me. I've been using the password to log on to Windows 10% of the times. The reason for that is that I've been using a cloud PC. And cloud PC, when you come from a different environment, it actually, you need to, or if you come from a Mac, you need to enter your password to be able to log on to the cloud PC. So that's the reason why I have this. And then you can see this in a good way. And I can see that somebody here is using their FIDO key a lot to log on to Windows, almost more than hello. So this is also pretty easy, simple queries where we do, let me see if I can find this one here. And we find, this is actually a custom log we created. That's true. We actually have an automation running and querying graph and putting this into a separate custom log to be able to measure easily. But the sign-in logs, this is to get the registered case. But the sign-in logs here, it's where we find the method for how do you sign into Windows, right? Authentication method, resource is Windows sign-in. It's also a very good example of how you can build your dashboard based on Azure AD logs.
When this dashboard, will it also be a blog post of you guys, or?
I'm not sure how this is. This is something we customly made for a customer. I mean, of course, we can share some. I can share with you, Yanni, after some of the queries. But it requires more if you want to have the full thing, for sure.
Yeah, that's...
Because you need a custom log to have all the data and stuff like that. We also have work. This is something I have been helping Morris with. We have been working on, and that is also pretty fresh. Let me see if I can find that one. Let me just take this to the side. I have so many workbooks. That's the problem doing stuff like this. It's like a myriad of workbooks here.
Well, that's cool because
this is just the in test. So we have even more. So we have this Intune Audit Dashboard as well, which goes on watching what's happening in Intune. Because the Intune audit logs do have a lot of information, but it doesn't necessarily easy to read or search and find stuff. And here we can also look at what kind of events do we have? We have a lot of app events, apps being updated, added, where we see they are being patched. We have some delete, audited users, application events, and you can see here that we can see that it's patch my PC that's patching most of my applications. And then it's and then we have Scapman as the other one, and then the other audited application events is actually then this is actually AutoPatch doing its job. This is the service principles that is being in use. So we have 3 device wiped, and we can also look here at trends on the different items. We can see this is that one. We have device targeted actions like wipe and wipe managed device. This gives you a much better insight. This is something we will be releasing on MS Endpoint Manager. I can just, it's a bit up to Maurice because he's the main auditor of this one. So it's all based on, if you just look at the actual audit log, it has all these different items. Let me just do like this. All different items that happens, right? We have create the mobile app. It's a lot of that because that is when Patch My PC updates an app for me, it will have, you will see that information. Here we see they patch this app, and here we see they create a new app. So every time there's an update, what Patch My PC does is that they create this main app as a new app, and then they patch the update app. So this is what we are doing. This is the stuff we are doing with KQL, building dashboards and reports. And very often is that when we start on this, I find it easy to, if you've never done this before, I always start with going into, if I'm going to do stuff for Intune, I go into reports and I go into workbooks. And then I find the public templates and I see, okay, what is Microsoft doing? And then you have at least somewhere to start from using these items. And then you can take this and you can enrollment trends, Apple bulk with user. But this is like, it doesn't give me enough. And that's where we start building stuff on top of it. And I guess some of you know or heard about our most popular workbook, which is the Update Compliance Dashboard. This is already published in public. And currently we are considering that this is actually getting too big. It's too much data. It's like it's getting hard to consume. What we have found, though, is that Microsoft has this update compliance. When you have this, you can go into monitor, and this is something I don't know how they do this, but it's pretty awesome how they actually build this by just adding in data from GitHub. And this, come on. This workbook here, if you click on edit and we go down here and look at this these groups that they use, if I go and edit here and if I click on edit group and then do edit again and edit again, I just want to see if I can find this. No, there is a way where you can actually say they load from template, and this is the template is because if I go in here and I should say done editing and go back and I click on this, it pops up like this, right? Safeguard, hold, and so on and so forth. But this is actually not in my, it's not in my environment even. It is the link here goes to a template. And I don't. I wish I could do this myself. The way they do it with the templates in here. Let me see if I can find that one. I need to go edit and edit and file setting. And you see it's opening a workbook template. And this is kind of this is what they put in here. Community workbooks, update compliance, active alerts. And I don't know how, I know where it is on GitHub, but I wish there was a way I could create my own repo and do the same. So there is some kind of trust relationship with this static value community workbooks that points to a specific GitHub repo owned by Microsoft, and then they actually use the folder structure to just paste in directly from here. So this is loading this template from GitHub live while I'm inside the workbook. I wish there was a way I could do this in my own environment with my own GitHub repo, because that would be so awesome. Because what I can do now is add group, and I could say from template, and I can add this in, and I can click on load, and then it will load that information directly from GitHub. I wish I could do it myself. I tried, but then adding the full GitHub link, it works, but it asks me, do you want to allow external content every single time?
Yeah. Well, and from a security perspective, of course, I get gray hairs because, then
no,
like...
yeah, well, it's only queries, right? It's only queries. Our Kusto workbook can never do anything except query your data.
That's not entirely true. If, for example, you go to Microsoft Sentinel, there is a workbook for managing your archive and log retention logs. And what it actually does, it is triggering the API to make those changes. So
yeah, but that is tied to a service principal that you have set up that allows that action. No?
No.
Does it do it as you as an end user?
Yeah. If I am a Microsoft Sentinel contributor, which is a role in Microsoft Sentinel, and if I have the necessary permissions on that resource group to manage my Microsoft Sentinel instance, I can make use of a workbook that is basically a helper to configure your log retention configuration by triggering API calls from the workbook.
So you're saying that from this space here, I could trigger the API by you doing some KQL queries?
Yeah. It's like, you can also not only run KQL queries against your log sources, you can also query your Azure resources.
Yeah, I know that. I know, right?
Yeah,
you can query stuff, but I didn't know you could actually change stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, I found the thing you're probably looking for. I'll share my screen for a second, because in Sentinel you have the KQL learning workbooks. You have the intro to KQL and the advanced. And over here you have the explanation. If you go to edit mode, and you can edit it and mark it as trusted.
I tried.
Oh, it didn't work?
No, I tried to do this actually on that one. We tried that with a pure GitHub link.
Okay.
To do it as trusted, and I at least we haven't tried for long. Maybe we tried for half an hour.
Okay.
But because I think we let me see if I can find let me see if I can find this here. No, let me go to the blog post and find. because if you try to create a group, just an empty group in KQL, and then you load from template and you point to a workbook JSON in the cloud, and it actually is able to load it, but it will ask you, and I didn't find a good way to trust it.
Okay.
So that was the thing about that. Let me see if I can show you.
I shared my screen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna find that workbook JSON, and if I go in here and create a new blank workbook, that's the better way of doing it actually. If I just do a blank workbook and I just delete this default one that comes up, add the group, and I do from template, and I do the whole pointing to the JSON here. Click on load. Do you want to load content? Yes. Okay, this didn't work. It did work before. Last time I tried it, it actually did work. No, wait, I need to do different. I need to click on raw. Sorry, I need to have the raw link. I think that is it. I think that's what we did. Yeah, you see here, it's loading the whole workbook directly from GitHub.
Yeah.
But if I now save this and call it KQL Cafe, and I put it in my dev and in my playground and store it in Western Europe. Save. And this happens then every time.
Okay.
So I didn't find a way to trust it. You can go here, trusted hosts. I tried to put in this one, and I tried the whole thing here. Even you should not have the HTTPS. I found out, and save and close. And the last time we tried this, since the last time I tried, it didn't work. Let me see if I can find this workbook again. Maybe it works now. That's typical, right? They're gonna try to show something. Why don't I see all the subscriptions all of a sudden? Where's my dev subscription? That was weird. Oh, that's why. I need to go here. I need to go in here and workbooks. And I should find dev test. And here, yeah, you see, even if I did do the trusting on this whole backpipe here, it still asks me the same thing. So I haven't found a reason for that, because that would be cool if I could do that. And then I need to have it ask me again, and then I can. But it's a cool thing actually. Having if you have a lot of tabs, like we're doing here. We have a lot of tabs, right? This is groups that are basically, if you look at the code, it's just a group that's conditionally showing based on parameters, right? So when you click this, the group parameter is set, and we're showing this and hiding everything else. It's basically what's happening. But instead of this, we could actually then have a different template or workbook inside our tenant for every one of these tabs. So if I wanted to just change this one, I could go in and just change that JSON or that workbook, and then the main workbook should auto update based on my template in my tenant. So that is something you could do, and probably something we're going to do at least when developing this, because maybe I want to change something here, and then Sandy's working on changing something in this tab, and then we can do that on the same time. Without conflicting with each other.
Very cool stuff. Wow.
So workbooks is really, really powerful, and you probably know that as well. But having this group thing is something we just realized by looking again, looking at what Microsoft does in their stuff. And if I can find, it's the GitHub Azure Monitor community. Here, application insight workbooks. So this is where they grab everything from. Is from here. And then if you go here on workbooks and you find all the other stuff, like here we have the compliance, enrollment, and we should find update compliance down here. And this is actually one of the things where, hey, what is this? Because this the delivery optimization stuff, and I was kind of looking at what are they doing here, and then I went down here and looked at the query, and I realized, hey, I don't have this table yet. So they are already building the workbooks templates for our preview feature, and so I know this is coming, but I don't know when. By just digging in here, because this is kind of the JSON for the workbook. So if I would do this in my tenant, it would give me nothing, right? Because I don't have the table. So if you're looking into workbooks and want to learn, you can just go in here and find your workbooks and play around. Whatever, and these can actually then, all of these can be then just injected in as a template. You don't even need to, if you know the structure. Because if you look at this update compliance, where is the template? I lost that template, didn't I? No, it's in the Kusto workbook. This one. No, well, maybe if I'm lucky. No, not that one. Where is the versioning again? Versions. I try to find the first version. No. So the versioning doesn't work. This was the first version I created, right? And yeah. So the first version is gone. Maybe because I didn't save it. But this is all really cool. This is actually, we didn't have this before. But now we actually have versionings on workbooks. So if I go in and change something, I can, or somebody changes something in my workbook, I can find it out and go back. But you could go into, I am clicking too much right now. Just stop me if I'm blabbering too much.
You're doing good, great.
Let me have here and look at this one. So we can do this, and then we can edit this one, and I can go down, edit. And basically what they did was like community something, right? Community workbook. I think it was community workbook. I don't remember. And then they did this path. And they did like update compliance. And let's do this active alerts. So what they did was, I don't remember if they did the workbooks or not, but basically they actually had with space. Maybe this is not going to work. No. Community workbooks. I don't remember the exact. Last try. No. But the thing is, if you find that logic again, you can actually bring that in yourself by just referencing it. Now I'm getting annoyed why I can't find it. Because it is in here. And in this one. Where is it? Edit. Maybe it helps to click edit first. Edit, edit, edit. And then we can see here. But wasn't this almost what I did? Community workbooks, active alerts, community workbooks. Well, anyway, if I use this one, it should work. No, could not load template, it says now. Anyway, it might maybe missing some data in there. But if I go back to the GitHub and take something else, but the thing is, I don't have a mapped workspace probably in my setting now. But I could potentially do go here and find something completely different, and do this one, and Intune Audit activity, and I could load that one in as a template here, potentially. Intune Audit activity, not with workbook, and Intune space audit, load. Is there a double thing? No, it doesn't work now, but you saw before it works. So maybe I need to be in have these parameters in this one. The other thing is also if you actually have a if you are doing like this and you wanna work with a group, it's like now it's editable, but you can also always click like edit group, and then it opens up that group, and then you can actually just save that as a different KQL workbook. So if I go back to my main and look at the update, oh, this is the wrong subscription. Go back to the update compliance one. Oh my God. Here. Go back to the update compliance one, and then I can click edit. And then I want to look at feature updates. And I click on go here. This is like the whole thing, and I click on edit. And then I click on edit groups, and then I have this suddenly as the, and if I now click on the edit button here and the code, it's only this. It's not the whole workbook anymore. It's only this part of the workbook now. So now I could actually go and it misses some parameters, right? That's in the original workbook because they are set on the top. So then you need to add them in here and make this query work again. But then you can take that part out, save it as a, I could save this as now the group feature update, and then I could call that group with the workbook ID, because you can also use that in here when you add groups. If you do from template, you can also use a template ID, and it and that can be a template in your environment or a workbook ID. So you can combine your workbooks by just adding it in here. You don't need to copy code between. You can just reference them across.
Yeah. Now, I have a question here, actually.
Yeah.
Not per se related to workbooks, but as we speak about workbooks, I mean, it's the same like when you develop any content in Azure. When you do that for yourself in your own environment, and it will never leave the environment, then that's okay. But what about templatizing those workbooks, because as soon, I guess, as you start to hard code or reference to other content, if you were to give me that workbook, what you want to avoid, of course, is that you have any hard linked pointers that I would then also all have to update, right?
Exactly.
Have you ever come across those challenges?
Yeah, we have. And then that's also when we do publish a JSON and they import a JSON and then they forget to point it to the correct workspace and link it to the workspace and those kind of things. Definitely. But typically we don't hard code much here, and this is kind of update compliance is a full solution, right, from Microsoft. So all the data is within the same solution space. But we do have additional values in here, like details. If you look here on go down and find, not this one, details by device maybe, where we have, in one of these, we do have a reference to the hardware vendor, and that is based on some custom inventory logs. But what we have done though is, if you don't find those logs, we're just hiding those part of the workbook.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the custom logs, then we're just going to hide it for you.
Yeah.
Because at least when you're talking about feature updates and safeguard holds, right? It's like, I want to see what kind of vendor, like this, what kind of vendor is having issues. And you see here is somebody's running Pro for some reason. We need to figure out, why are they running Pro? We should all be enterprise. But here we can see on the vendor, and then this is based on custom data from the device inventory custom log. And if you don't have that log, then this one is hidden. Then this part is just hidden from the workbook. Even though you import it, you just won't gonna see it if it's not there.
Yeah, I like that approach. I mean, either hide it or at least give a proper message like no data available, instead of what you see sometimes even in the default workbooks, like error loading data. Yeah.
But is it? Does it get hidden by itself, or do you hide it with automation, or?
No, it's hidden by conditional. It's a group. Okay. So if we click on edit, and I just need to click on edit, and we go down and find where is this edit button on this? It needs to change its spec. Should be another edit. This is a problem with groups. You have to edit to get to the place you want. But here under advanced setting, we think, oh yeah, he hasn't done it in this version. But typically what we do is like make this item conditionally visible.
Okay.
And then we add the condition. We set a parameter on the top or something that measures if the log is there.
Cool.
Yeah, that's at least what I've been told. This is what something Maurice did around this, and the thing we have found is you have here application logs true, third-party logging's true, and this is based on we find this by going in here. Applicate custom hardware logs, for instance. I can click on this. This is the parameter. And then I search and see do I have the log. And then we set the parameter based on that fact, and then that will hide or show this part of it. Yeah. So this is kind of more workbook dynamics than KQL itself. But I mean, workbooks is an important part of usage of KQL, right?
Definitely, fully agree. I mean, I see this even in my daily life. I mean, some people say, okay, cool, you can do KQL, but if people want just to have some instant reporting available or visibility, we cannot expect from people that they are going to first of all search the query somewhere in GitHub, in whatever query pack, and then run it manually. But if we consider some people as end users of simply consuming data, we have to make it data available easily, instantly, in a nice way, and I guess workbook is the answer.
Yeah, and there is a question how this would work on an MSSP, for example. I mean, it's all about getting the logs into the right place. So for a MSSP or MSP, basically you use, for instance, log forwarding or Event Hub or anything to send your log into your environment, and then you build your workbooks there. Or you can use Azure Lighthouse to centralize your logs for many environments. So it's many ways to make a customer or multiple customer workbooks. You just need to make sure the data is collected into the same workspace where you connect your workbook.
Do you deploy the workbooks? Do you deploy them in all your customers' tenants, or do you run them for your own tenant?
It's both. We have a lot of customers using workbooks, and some of the workbooks started as a customer engagement. And it's like, hey, we need to see this. And then we build it, and then we take it into our repository. And some of those workbooks are like Cloudway, internal, we use for our customers. And some of them we share with the community. Sometimes it's something that we found that this is so awesome, we kind of need to try to monetize on it. That's the way of driving business as well on side of that, of course. But
And
then we make a simpler version. We kind of simplify it a little bit and make a community edition of it. That happens too.
And do you deploy them by hand, or do you have like a pipeline doing that for you, or?
Currently, it's typically copy paste JSON. It's so quick and it's so simple, and maybe we don't even have the permissions to run the pipeline, but we do have permission in a subscription where we have the logs available. Larger customers, we have only access to that one log workspace to build the reports, and they have the data in there, and that's basically what we have. And then we're just gonna dump them in there basically. So it's really easy now. Just click here and just copy if you're gonna copy, use the gallery template. And if you do want to deploy it with ARM, of course, use the ARM template. So the one thing though is that in this one, you should always delete before you publish it. So, or else it's going to try as a fallback resource if you haven't connected anything to fall back to my workspace, which, yeah, they don't have access to say it like that.
Yeah.
So, and it's also possible to maybe build workbooks to query across subscriptions as well, as long as the user running the workbook has permission across. You can easily define specific queries and join data from totally different subscriptions as well in the KQL query. You can reference us to specific workspace in your query, and then you can join that with the other query and the other query workspace, and then you have suddenly data from 3 workspaces in the same query. Problem is if they have the same device reporting to 2 of the workspaces, you have a bit of issue with duplicated records, of course. But if you have, so yeah, you can span it across subscriptions if you want to.
Nice, nice.
That's what I had to show for today.
Really
Well,
cool.
I would say that's an awful mouthful of inspiration, at least. Yeah. So let me quickly add or try to add a little bit to that, what we just discussed. So first of all, here you see the archiving workbook, and there's this button. Yeah. So if I want it, and I can change here the retention and what's actually happening. Yes, I agree. This whole edit is a pain in the butt. So it's always a question of try and error, but I prepared it in the background. So the magic is actually happening here. Here you see update retention, and the action is an ARM action. And as you can see, this is the ARM action path. And here we see patch. And what I want to highlight here, Jan, yes, I can be destructive with workbooks, provided I have permissions. Yeah. And from that perspective, I have to say, I'm not
Is it only using
about the fact that we cannot just embed anything?
No, I totally agree. But is there something, is there really nothing you need to enable for this ARM REST API to work? No consent that need to be made or anything like that? Are you sure? It's no.
Yeah.
Because there is some kind of the ARM REST API, and you're doing this as a delegated action, as a delegated token based on your user, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not aware of, as I have been working with clients actually, configuring their Microsoft Sentinel data retention lately through this workbook. Yeah.
So,
but yeah,
this is. I was not aware of that. So now I learned something today as well.
Well, I will also definitely double check, because although I don't hope so, sometimes people are just running around with global admin and, just anything works.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I mean, I guess if you only have a log analytics contributor, you won't be able to do this because you don't have any permissions in ARM or on the subscription to change that setting.
Yeah.
So RBAC is important no matter what you do. And you shouldn't go around with privileges you're not using. If you're going to go in and read a workbook, you shouldn't elevate to global admin, right? You should elevate to something else. And but again, Azure stuff is different. And a lot of people are not using PIM well enough on Azure resources. They're using it on roles in Azure AD, but they have not elevated that into delegating different permissions. Either you elevate into a resource group owner or a subscription owner or subscription or resource group contributor, but very rarely I see somebody granularity even less. I just need to go and read stuff now. I want to elevate into the reader role. That's not typically what I see in Azure.
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree. In order to make these type of changes, which is, by the way, no different than actually, going here to workspace settings, go to tables. And in order to do that, I guess you need to be at least contributor on the resource group where those tables reside. And then, I could go here and say manage table, and that's basically the same. So the workbook is basically the same as if you were to go here and change, your retention time to whatever. Yeah. And another thing I wanted to show to people, just, in case you're totally scared of all that awesomeness that Jan just showed us, which I believe it took probably a couple of hours, if not weeks, until you get those nice, shiny workbooks fully functional. But, just to lower the bar a little bit, by an example by myself, because I honestly haven't done too much, but I also, about a year ago, got a customer request on, show me Intune wipe actions. And for everyone that is now scared about all those complexity, let me show you. This is really created, like Jan highlighted, off copy paste, looking at how other workbooks work. Yeah. And it was pretty simple. I just created some drop-down boxes here. Yeah, not too difficult to define. And then behind there, some very regular KQL query. And the whole objective of this workbook was for an audit team to allow them, easily and quickly, without running KQL themselves. They were just interested in those three activities on device wipe actions. So what I'm trying to do is, again, everybody that, is being blown away now by the complexity. It doesn't have to be that complex. Yeah, it doesn't have to be nested and, with 1,000 options.
No,
yeah.
And that's also why I say I always recommend starting with start with something that somebody built. And typically some of these, I mean, if you look into the Sentinel workbooks or you start looking into some of the complex Azure AD workbooks, they are complex. Yeah. Start with the simple stuff. Start with like the Intune audit stuff that it is actually already in Intune, because they are simple.
Yeah.
And also go to that GitHub, find some workbooks and just download the JSON and just dump it in and start playing around, and then see the queries behind the visualization. That's how I learned it.
Yeah. No, very, very cool stuff. And yes, I guess the community is happy with whatever you want to share. But, also understand that we all need to do something for a living. But yeah, definitely great inspiration. I mean, we saw some workbook awesomeness a couple of months ago already in the, Learn KQL interactive guide that was presented by a colleague from Microsoft. And I'm very happy that, today you showed us something that isn't necessarily security driven, but also from a Microsoft Intune point of view. Now, I do know, but I also know that many people not in security might actually not know how to get their data into log analytics from Intune. So, Jan, could you maybe quickly demonstrate how easy it is to actually get your Intune logs into a log analytics workspace?
Yes, I can definitely show that. That is so. I mean, first of all, you need a workspace. I'm not going to show how you create a workspace, but you need to have a workspace and you need to have access to the workspace. And the thing is, and this is something that oh, I need to PIM. Give me a second.
No worries.
Yeah, my permissions has expired in Azure AD, so I need to PIM myself before I can. Or actually, give me a second. I can actually go into my my other tenants, and I can do it here. Let me see. I'm just gonna log in here. It's even easier. Because here I don't have PIM in my test environment. So to get started, you go into reports, you click on diagnostic settings.
Quickly share your screen, please.
Oh yeah, I need to do that as well.
I took it away.
You took me away. All right, let's start on the top. Right. First thing is that you go in here, click on reports, you click on diagnostic settings, and then you click on add diagnostic settings, and then you call it a name, and you select what logs you want, I do recommend just doing every log here. They are not that extensive on Intune. In Azure AD, you need to think about what you're actually selecting because it can be a massive amount of data. This is not. I mean, of course, if you have 200,000 devices, you will have data here, but it's not that much. And then you click on Send to a workspace. And this here, I'm seeing several subscriptions. If you don't see your subscription here, you need to click on this one and look at your default subscription filter and select them all to be a part of your filter. And then I need to start this again, but then you would be able to see them the next time you go in here and start this operation again. And then you find your workspace. I have this monitoring workspace and click Save. And then it starts injecting logs within 5 minutes. And then you don't get any history, but from that time, it starts injecting those logs. If I try to save this now, it's probably going to give me an error because I already sent logs to this workspace.
Yeah.
And if you do this and you want to start workbooks, do you recommend like waiting for a couple of days or like a week to have some proper amount of data, or can you start in an hour?
I mean, if you're gonna build a workbook around audit actions, you need to do some actions that's auditable first, or else you don't have any data. It's like if you try to build a have you ever built a logic app as a response to Azure Monitor alert? And then you start building that logic app without having that first alert that gives you the whole JSON thing, right? Back in the day where it actually used to send you the data in the alert, with the new schema, they only send you API links back. So you need to go back and query it. But yeah. So that is also a use case where you actually need to go and in the logic app now, you actually need to query the Log Analytics API from the alert. It doesn't give you the data out of the box anymore. At least not in Azure Monitor. I believe Sentinel still is different. They use a different alert schema.
Yeah, you also have the get entity block, so get IP, get workstation. Yeah. So it's a bit different. Yeah.
It's but very often, I mean, when you talk about where to put your logs, don't put your Intune logs in Sentinel because there is nothing in Sentinel that evaluates those logs, and it's just going to cost you additional money. Unless you build your own AI rules in Sentinel on Intune stuff, then you can do it. But not just put everything into the same workspace just because it's easy.
Yeah,
put what's important for security. That's what you put in Sentinel. And there's two logs that are super expensive. And you probably know. This is a question to you guys. Where have you been surprised about the amount of log data in Sentinel? Like really been surprised?
AAD non-interactive signing logs.
That's one. Yes. The other one?
Well, there I'm going to give you a consulting answer, but actually it's a nice bridge because I'm actually going to talk about that in a few minutes. So I see everything. I see from device events, security
Defender
events.
For endpoint. Defender for endpoint is one of the worst. But those you actually do need, right? If you really want to have a lot of all your client signals in Sentinel to investigate, but they are definitely not cheap. But all the device file events and device events from the timeline, sending those to Sentinel, be aware of the cost. That's just what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, let me fine-tune that comment a little bit, because if things run average normal, and if customers have an E5 license, there's a lot of discount there. And I would say the statement it's super expensive isn't really true. However, and that's why I'll talk about that in a minute. when we speak about cost, sometimes it can be an individual device or an individual user, a misconfigured user, right? A disabled user that is no longer with the company, but he's still logged on to a VDI machine. And those users can become very expensive, or let's say not they, but their account. And the same we see for computer objects. Yeah. So unless Jan, you wanted to add something to the workgroups, actually you created without you and I actually planning for this an excellent bridge to the next topic that falls under the "What did I do this month?" Where I will briefly show you when it comes to detailed cost analysis to the level of a device or a user account. But before I get along, anything you wanted to add, Jan?
No, I'm good.
Okay, then thank you very much. And then let's continue that path. So let's quickly start from scratch. We are in our Sentinel or log analytics. Ideally, very little recap, but I feel I can't stop mentioning this all the time because there's no week passing by where I run into customers, that were doing clickety-click, try and error, and they start to ingest data. And whenever I ask, have you enabled your daily cap? The answer is no. Yeah, and I say, well, okay, unless you are very rich, that's something you might want to consider, especially when you are playing and when you have no idea what your data volume is, right? Okay, so you have your data log ingestion. Now here we see, monthly cost. That's all nice. If we have outliers, you will typically go here and then you will click here. And we can see, okay, what caused the cost. Okay, we see log management. Okay, doesn't tell us that much, so we can change this into data type. And then at least we understand the log where the volume is coming from. But that's nice. But if now I wanted to actually know what user account or what device is actually causing that cost, because again, in our daily practical work, we see that, those costs aren't actually that high, but we have outliers. And those outliers, if we quickly take away from a security perspective, those outliers originate because of maybe bad infrastructure hygiene or simply, because something goes wrong, as it is, normal in IT. Yeah, it can happen. So let me go back and try to do that step for step with you. So quickly close those, close this, prepare some queries. Okay, so let's take, let's imagine we found out that the device network events was the table that was causing a, high amount of data. Okay, we would know because what we do here is we break it down per day. Okay, we can even go back even longer. Let's do working days. And we get an idea of, how much data is actually coming in per day and what is the usage. Okay, but, and this is what I want to show you, in our log analytics tables, we also have this attribute called billet size. Because unfortunately in the usage table, I have no information about what or who caused the data increase. If I do just a, usage, And I even say, okay, where data type, let me copy that. So let's do a 10. If we look at this, by the way, you might think, but there's a computer attribute. Yes, but it's depreciated. So that doesn't help you. So there's no way I can actually tell, who or what. I only see that there was a quantity, that there was megabytes, but there's nothing telling me, what actually in detail caused this cost. But thanks to the is build size that we have in every table, we actually can get that detail. So if I now change that, and let's look at before, let me do 24 hours again. Okay, so on 24th, we had 0.01, 0.02. And if we do the same on the build size, we will get quite close. We will never get exactly the same number. I've been trying to fine tune that, but first of all, this is a real-time system. And secondly, there seems to be a little variation between usage and build size reported in the log analytics table. I didn't get to the ground, but I found that the difference is too little to worry about. Okay, so I thought, okay, running those scripts all the time and trying to memorize, what I had under usage and what I had under the build size became annoying. So I thought, okay, let's create a query that basically does the same. And as you can see, if I'm doing a bin by, bin generated, I get a bucket for the time, in this case for the day. So I can actually join that. And that means I now see the following. I can see that on the 24th, I had 27. And now I have a demo problem. Oh no, it's right. So here I see I get, this is gigabyte, just a little bit different shown. 29. I should work on the formatting, but you get the point. That's working. And now, okay, now we know, that we can drill down into the effective log analytics table. So now we can do the next step. We can say, okay, in this case, I say the price is $5, which, would be cost somewhere in Switzerland North or Europe North. Take like $2 for the ingestion per gigabyte into log analytics, another 2 or 2.5 for Sentinel. So I just added 5 here because that's what we have in our region. And now what I can do, I can actually find out, the cost. Now, just had a discussion with a customer today. You might think, well, $4 per month, that's nothing. But if you look what the normal price would be, and if you have like hundreds of those outliers, so we are now talking about, let's say, an environment with 4,000 devices, but if you have only 100 devices that are costing $4 a month, or maybe $10, well, we can have a nice Christmas dinner for that money, right? I can do the same here. Now I know what device is causing a high volume. I can do the same, and I'm going to look at all the Defender events here. Take that device, and I actually can drill down to the detail, to each table, and I always have the cost. And I've been using this now about 2-3 times this lately. And it actually helped because, money hurts, right? People don't want to spend money. If you call someone and say, hey, your AAD non-interactive sign-in log is going crazy because there is this one user, that is creating 100,000 events a day, most people will not care. So if you just use the usage table and you say, well, your table is growing, so usage table, you would typically show something like this. You will go to the workbooks, you go to the usage, it's in the template. I'm on the Microsoft demo tenant here, so you go to the workspace usage report. You would show them something like this, like, okay, your operation log. In the real world, you would, of course, have much more information about each individual table, and you would see, it's growing and if it's billable or not. This, by the way, is not billable, so that's not going to hurt. Let me see if Microsoft in the demo tenant has some. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so you see device. You see what is billable. Now, if you show this to a customer, he will say, I don't care. Yeah. Or, it will be difficult to explain where it's coming from. But if now we do this little game that we did before with device network events, and we are just changing that to device process events, okay, we see that it took this amount. Now let me see how much we set here on the filter, 90 days. Okay. So we know in average, this was the usage. Now again, this is not telling us a lot. So we want to do this. 90 days. Get this. We could now combine this. Let's leave this with the last 7 days to not unnecessarily overdo it. I had formatted it somewhere a little bit more nicely, but I already see my error because I didn't do this round. So I'll make sure in the version that I publish that this is fixed. Because as you can see here, I did some rounding, which I haven't done here. Summarize, total volume, gigabyte usage. Yeah, okay. And now we continue that story device, that's all fine. Device process events. And now what I can do is I will, sorry for that, give me a second to think. Yeah, okay. So I'm just interested in the device process events. And I can see again, okay, this device is the one that's causing the most costs. So ultimately, I would now start digging into this one and take it from here and eventually find out, whether I have an anomaly or a very high increase in certain processes that shouldn't be there. And again, not made up, this week, 2 events, one individual PC because they had some, not going to use names here, but some cloud backup software installed on an end user device that was creating massively amount of, process events. And the second case was an end user, obviously with local admin rights, had decided to install yet another antivirus product on top of it. And that product was also triggering a huge amount of processes that weren't there usually. So yeah, good examples on how things can start deviating from a baseline, and this is how you can eventually attach an operational anomaly or deviation and attach a price to it, and actually maybe get some people to do or fix the issue, knowing that there's a cost associated to it. Yeah. Good. So that was my thingy I did lately with KQL. Yeah.
Cool. Unfortunately, I haven't had much to share for this month. There's a lot of things being worked on, so I'll have some good things for next month. And we're also a bit over time, so I think we're all good.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience? Questions, virtual flowers. Okay. Then once again, Jan, many thanks for joining us today and sharing your workbook and KQL awesomeness.
You're welcome. It was fun being here. If I'm gonna join you another time, I will have some more just queries and demos prepared. This was kind of a really low effort, just showing what we've been doing. But
Nobody's
Kusto Detective, everyone, that's really cool. And there's a new one out on Sunday. So which one of you are going to beat me to the punch?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the question.
Great.
We'll see.
Yeah. Then thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us live or otherwise in your recording, and talk to you next month. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.